Hey everybody, so we're going to be talking about how to find slope from a graph, a table, ordered pairs, and an equation. We are going to do a little bit brief of the equation. So you see this, 4x minus 8y equals 16. You have not seen that yet, so we're going to come back to it next chapter. But I just want you to be exposed to it, that is standard form. All right, so you know how to find it from a graph and an ordered pair already because we talked about it in the last video, but we're also going to talk about that table. So first, we're going to get started with our graph. In this graph, in these pairs of graphs that you see, you'll notice that there aren't any points made for you. You have to go find the points. So what I'm going to do is I like to find it where it's on an X right there. And these are kind of perfect because they're on the y-intercept and the x, it's the y and the x-intercept. But if you wanted to, you could also pick this point because it's right on the x. You don't want to pick a point like this because then you're like at 2.5 maybe, and you don't want to be guessing. You want perfection or close to it. So again, we're walking from left to right. So I went up 3 and always to the right, 2, which means my slope for this is going to be 3 over 2. And that's it. For this one, notice it's going downhill as we're walking from left to right. And the points that we have here, we're going down 2 and always to the right, 3, which means my slope, which is the letter M, is going to be negative 2 over 3. Now, it doesn't matter if you put the negative where it is right now at the top, or if you write it out like this. Either way, if it's just one negative, so either option would be correct. All right, so now you'll notice 3 and 4. Number 3 is a horizontal line, which means it's got a 0 slope. So if it helps you, check this out. You can make a 0, or a z, sorry, for 0 right here with your horizontal line. And the cool thing about this one is for your undefined, which is this one, or your no slopes, which is the same thing, you can make a no, meaning it's got no slope. You can also write undefined. Either way would be correct for a graph. All right, the next one is if you can find slope from a table. Now you're like, oh my gosh, there are so many points. But remember how we made a t-chart with our ordered pairs? Well, guess what? It's the same thing, but you've just got a lot of them and you still only need a pair. So I like to pick pairs that, well, seem easier. So this 8, 10 right here, 8 to 10. Well, that's a plus 2. And the 4 to 5 is a plus 1. It's a change in y over the change in x for my slope. My change in y is a positive 2. My change in y is a 1. 2 over 1 is really just 2. All right, now here's the deal. You could have used any pair and it still would have given you that. It didn't even have to be next to each other. You could have picked 4 to 16, and that's what, plus 12. And from 2 to 8, that's plus 6. Well, 12 over 6 simplifies to 2 over 1. It doesn't matter, as long as it's a linear function, it'll work. All right, so let's try this next one right here. And this one, you lucked out. You've got x and y intercepts here. So I'm going to pick these two. From 2 to 0, you're subtracting 2. 0 to 6, you are adding 6. Your slope is the change in y over the change in x, which means you've got negative 2 over 6. A negative divided by a positive is going to remain negative. And 2 over 6 does simplify to negative 1/3. Always, always, always simplify. All right, so now let's try this one. So from 5 to 6, it's plus 1. 2 to 2, it's plus 0. My change in y is 1. My change in x is 0. And oh man, this is a no. Because no, you can't have a 0 at the bottom. So no slope. Now, no slope is not the same thing as having a 0 slope, or vice versa. 0 is still a number, guys. Don't be numberist in here. You know better. We take all the numbers in Miss Somji's class. All right, so now let's try it. 5 to 5 is 0. Uh-oh, it seems we might have one. 0 to 4 is plus 4. So my slope, my change in y is 0. And my change in x is 4. This is an okay because it's okay to get 0. And it's okay to have your 0 on top, which means your slope is just 0. They will commonly trick you between these two right here. All right? Make sure you do your math right. It's always your change in y over your change in x. All right, so I can find slope from ordered pairs. Well, guys, you can use the formula or you can use your T-chart for this. I am only going to be doing one problem from here. The rest of these, you're going to be submitting to me online. So notice how I'm using the T-chart. I've stacked my ordered pairs. I'm using my commas right here to line them up. And then I can make my T-chart from Dr. Idiot. And now I've got a table. Hey, I know how to do this. -3 to -6. I had to subtract 3. 2 to 5, I had to add 3. My slope is the change in y over the change in x, which means it's going to be a -3 over 3, which is equal to -1. That's what it simplifies to. So your answer for this would be m equals -1. Now, when you're doing 2, 3, and 4, you must show your work. You can use the formula, you can use the T-chart, but you have to pick something. All right, so here's this one. This is using slope-intercept form. You guys talked about this last year in 8th grade. You might remember a little bit where m, and we've been using this, that's our slope. All right, these right here are in standard form. You will not know how to do this till next chapter. This one and this one. So we're going to skip them for now. But let's look at example 1 right here. This technically is in slope-intercept form, but it is so rude right now. It is not in y equals mx plus b. And guys, we are polite mathematicians in Miss Somji's class. So we are going to rewrite this original equation as it should be, with our slope first and then our y-intercept. Now, if you wrote it this way, you're not wrong. I would not count you wrong. But just know that sometimes you might not see it that way, and you need to know how to write it the polite way. And then look right here. Your slope is exactly where it's supposed to be, and so you know that it's going to be -2. It's that easy. All right, so now we've got these two. All right, so it's already in y equals, so it's in the form of y equals mx plus b. And they don't have the x term here, so it should really be y equals plus 1. That is a 0x because you see 0 x's there. And therefore, it's got a 0 slope. Now, this one, oh man, it doesn't even start with the y. Doesn't start with the y, and it doesn't even have a y. No y, no slope. And guess what? It's also not a function. All right, that's all I got for you. Make sure that you submit in these 3 answers. Thanks for watching.